What if I told you that 600,000 to 800,000 women, children, and men are sold and forced into forced labor and commercial sex? The website called Ark of Hope for Children talks about these numbers of women, children, and men in the system. The same website also states that in 2012, the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime reports the percentage of children victims had risen in a 3-year span from 20% to 27%. Of every 3 victims, 2 of those are girls and 1 of them is a boy. Human trafficking is all around us in today's world. It could happen to anyone you know or see. Doesn't matter what gender, age, color, political party, etc. It can happen to anyone, even you. Ark of Hope for Children talks about how it is estimated that 76% of transactions for sex with underage girls is on the internet. With so much stuff being on the internet these days, including things like human trafficking on the dark web, we need ways to better catch these criminals. Thorn is an organization that is co-operated by Ashton Kutcher. This organization uses its tools to catch victims and predators online. We will be mentioning what Thorn has done for the world when it comes to their accomplishments, and we will also go over who is most susceptible to human trafficking. Ashton Kutcher delivers his speech to Congress in 2017 in February. So I'm sure new information has come about since the speech, but we will talk about how far they have come with their organization when it was in 2017. Many people are affected by human trafficking, not just the victims. The families of the victims are affected. The people who work at Thorn are also affected because of the stories that they hear and even all the graphic pictures and videos that they have to watch and look at. I found out about Thorn when I was watching a YouTube channel, and they mentioned Thorn and all of what they did and what they stand for. So many people are becoming part of human trafficking every single day, and it is a living nightmare for them. Like I mentioned earlier, 600,000 to 800,000 people are bought and sold into some type of trafficking every year. This conflict hasn't ended yet, and it's nowhere near ending. We all hope it would be ending soon, but sadly that's not the case. But in order to end human trafficking, we need to take the steps to doing that. And that is what Thorn is doing right now. And they are making a huge impact even with the little amount that they have done. I do agree that Thorn is taking a huge step in trying to defeat human trafficking. And if each of us pitch in, we will be able to almost put a stop to the whole thing. According to Ark of Hope for Children, that trafficking will soon surpass the illegal selling of drugs within the next few years, which is huge because illegal drug market is one of the biggest things in today's world. It's okay though because Thorn is doing the best that they can do to catch as many victims and predators as they can in the most little amount of time as possible. Ashton talks about how they have taken the investigation time down from these crimes from what he said to be 3 years to what they believe to be 3 weeks. They have a tool called Spotlight that is used by law enforcement and prioritizes their caseload. In 6 months with this tool, they have identified 6,000 trafficking victims, and Ashton said that about 2,000 of them were minors. So even though trafficking is getting pretty big, Thorn has done a lot to lighten that load and help decrease the amount of victims that are in the world. Another thing that Ark of Hope for Children says is that gender and age profile of victims dedicated globally. 59% of the victims are women, 14% are men, 17% are girls, and 10% were boys. Ashton also talked about how if a child is in the foster care system, they are more likely to become a part of human trafficking. They are 4 times more likely to become exposed to sexual abuse. He said that if they aren't given the love that every child needs to grow, Ashton called it an incubator for trafficking. Even though there are so many people susceptible to being trafficked, if we keep using organizations like Thorn, they can help eliminate so much of the criminal activity, and we can together as a human race drop the numbers drastically. This speech was something that everybody needs to hear and learn about. Just because you don't talk about something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's out there, and it's a real threat to anyone that lives on the earth. Thorn is growing day by day, and so many people are donating to their website. They are a nonprofit, so that all their money that is donated goes straight to the cause itself to help better the technology to help these trafficking victims. Trafficking can happen to anyone. Don't be the one to ignore it like it is not a real thing, because it is a very real thing. And these are real people that need your help. Even just talking about the subject can help these victims. The littlest things can make the biggest impacts. And this is what Ashton said in his speech about being in the foster care system and love.
When people are left out, when they're neglected, when they're not supported, and when they're not given the love that they need to grow, it becomes an incubator for trafficking. And this refugee crisis, if we want to be serious about ending slavery, we cannot ignore it, and we cannot ignore our support for this issue in that space, because otherwise we're going to deal with it for years to come.
So if they don't have the love to grow, then they are not going to be able to grow as a person, and they'll feel neglected, and they're 4 times as likely to be sexually abused if they're in the foster care system, which, like he said, was an incubator for trafficking and sexual trafficking. So, yeah.